Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. Today on the podcast, I speak with Jamie Truman, who, with her husband, runs Truman Charities. I talk to people every week who are helping other people, and Jamie and her husband are helping people who are helping other people. They raise money for different nonprofits and different groups and people in their community. They are doing incredible things. When I talked to her about how things work, how they run, she told me this, which is our word of the week.
It's the word of the week.
Our word of the week is gifts. She said that the way they got things to run smoothly was to find different people to do different tasks that they were really good at. Somebody is good at marketing, somebody is good at technology, somebody is good at social media. They had different people do different things. And when they all worked together, it made everything just be efficient and run well. What are the gifts that you have? What gifts do you have that you can use to help, even if you're not in a nonprofit, even if you're not in a charity, maybe at your job, maybe at your church, maybe with your group of friends? What gifts do you have that you could be using to help others? Because you have them. You have them. Everybody does. I hope you're encouraged when you listen today. It was a really fun conversation, and I love what Truman Charities is doing. Thank you for being here. Hi,
Hi.
how are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great.
I don't have one of those fancy microphones. I want to get one so bad.
You should. I love them.
I know, I really do. I think that's going to be my next purchase. So, well, thank you for talking to me today. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
What was interesting to me was I talk to people that are helping other people, and you are helping the people that are helping other people. Like you're helping people, but you're helping people that, you know what I mean? So I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of cool, a different perspective of it. I just really want to know why you started Truman Charities.
Okay. It's been around for 15 years.
Mhm.
It started like before I had met my husband, before Truman Charity started. My father had passed away and I wanted to do something. And I was about 20 years old and I wanted to do something in his honor. He had passed away. He had had AIDS. And so I decided to raise money for the Whitman Walker Clinic in the Marine Corps Marathon, which is a marathon in DC at the time. It had a charitable component to it. So
Yeah.
I thought, you know what, let me run this marathon, which I was not a runner. I had not run like around like a neighborhood, like my neighborhood
Right.
before. So it was an interesting like thing that I decided to do. But I thought, you know what, like this would be a great way for me to kind of get through kind of the grieving process, which I ended up, and now I'm like an avid runner because I really do love it. It's kind of like a meditation. It really
Yeah.
gets your mind thinking. I absolutely love it. And so after I ran that and I raised money for the Whitman Walker Clinic, which helps people in the DC area that are living with HIV and AIDS. And so after that, I decided that I started a fitness business. And then while I was doing that, I would help people on the side train for marathons. And
Wow.
so they could raise money for causes that they, you know, that meant something to them.
Mhm.
And then when I was 29 years old, I met my husband, Jerry. He had just started Truman Charities a year prior.
Mm.
He was very involved in LLS, which is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Okay.
His grandfather had passed away from that. And then one of his friends was in remission from leukemia. And she said, I'm raising money for Light the Night Walk, which is this really cool event that LLS does every year. And they were holding it in Rockville, Maryland. She said, can you be a sponsor for that event? And he was like, you know what? I would love to be a sponsor, of course, but let me see if I could do, something else.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm going to like hold this. I'm going to hold a party at my house. I'll have like a bowl and just like see if you want to like, checks, how much money you want to give, whatever. And that night he had ended up raising $8,000. He was like, you know what? This is really something cool because there was a lot of people coming. They're like, we want to give, but we don't know really how to start and we don't know how or what organization we should be a part of. And so that's when he started Truman Charities. And then I had met him a year later. And since then, we've raised, and it's a 100% volunteer based organization. And since then, we've raised a little over $2 million for various
Wow.
different charities. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Mhm.
What is the process like? Like I'm sure there are people that contact y'all and are reaching out for help, but how do you decide who you're going to help?
It was a few years ago, and I actually was having this conversation with my husband, and I said, there are so many people that are coming to us, and we have great board members now too.
Mhm.
And they were coming to all of us, and they needed help. And we have 3 annual events per year. We have a Halloween, we have a derby party, and then we have a family fun event. And there's only, so obviously there's only 3 that we can help. There's only so many resources that we have.
Right.
So I decided in 2021 to start Truman Charities podcast, where I interview nonprofit founders, but also thought leaders within the community. And then we are able to help people that we're not able to have events for, but
Yeah.
now we're able to give them a platform to market their organization or market themselves if they're very involved within the community and in one of the charities that they're very much a part of. And then
Mhm.
we donate to that as well.
That's awesome. I love that. I was going to ask about your podcast, who you talk to on your podcast and what you talk about.
Oh, so it's really interesting because at first it was just nonprofit founders, but then there's just so many interesting people in the community. So now,
Mhm.
I've talked to like a couple New York Times bestsellers because they have these books that I think are really making an impact on the community. And
Mhm.
when you talk to people that are very involved in the community, they typically have an organization that they're very well connected to.
Yeah.
So then I'll talk to them and we'll talk about their book or what they have going on, and then we'll talk a little bit about the organization that they are connected to. But then I also have just the nonprofit founders that I speak to.
Yeah.
So then that ends up being this great kind of catalog for people
Mhm.
to then go on and say, I really want to get involved with an organization, but I don't really know where to start or what organization resonates with me. Then it
Right.
makes it easier for them to find. It's kind of like, okay, well, let me like scroll down, listen to a few and
Yeah.
see if one kind of it feels right for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure you feel the same way, but I'm amazed. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that have started nonprofits and then a lot of people that volunteer, but I am amazed at the great things people are doing. I mean, they're incredible. And I mean, I could send you a list of the people. If I had millions of dollars, this is who I would give them to help because they're doing great things. Do y'all
Mhm.
help people all over the country? Is it local charities or local companies or
So typically the ones that we have our event for is local within like
okay.
the DMV area.
Okay.
However, the people that I interview, and sometimes it's not, because there's been a couple military organizations that may be based around here, but they help service individuals all over the United States. There's Home for
Right.
Heroes that we participated with, and so what they do is their main, I guess, headquarters is close to here, but they help military servicemen and women all over the United States getting
Okay.
homes for them. So it can be something like that. Most of the ones we do have events for are helping like local families
Right.
within the DMV area, but I interview different organizations from all over the US.
Okay. And where are you located exactly?
So we're right outside of DC in
Okay.
Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah.
Okay. So have a goal to speak to somebody in every state. And so I was trying to figure out where to put you. And I've
Oh, that's
talked
so
to
neat.
Maryland, but I mean I guess I could count DC. Um
Well, we're
yeah,
3 miles away.
yeah,
If
surely
that
that
helps.
counts. Surely that counts. So I know that you said you're all volunteer based. How can your volunteers help besides showing up for the events that y'all have a few times a year?
So we have, which is really great. So when we first started, as I'd mentioned, like we were raising, $8,000 to $10,000 per event. And we've gotten to now that our largest event was last year, and we had raised $117,000 for
Wow.
that organization. Yeah. But really what happened is that my husband, maybe like 7 years ago, was like, I can't, this is too much. We have to streamline this. Like I run a business and it's very like streamlined and efficient, but
Yeah.
this is not.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So what we had to do, which was one of the best things that we did, is I went out and we found other board members
Mhm.
that were better at certain things than myself and my husband, right?
Sure.
So my husband, he's the one that is friends with every person he's ever met and
Yeah.
knows everyone. And so he's extremely outgoing. Now, when it comes to sort of the admin stuff and the behind the scenes stuff, that's, something that would be better for someone else. So
Right.
um we have a board member, Cindy, for that. And then marketing, I used to have a marketing company, but that was 15 years ago. So think about what's changed in like
Yes.
15 years
Yeah.
in marketing. So I have a wonderful board member, Julie Schumacher. She owns Sassy Agency, and that's a marketing company. So she does all of our marketing. We have like a couple people and then someone else that deals just with the venues and the food and all of that and coordinating it.
Yeah.
So what we did is you just find people that are really good at specific areas.
Mhm.
And if you put them together, like great things happen. It really does run so efficiently and it's so
Sure.
turnkey now.
Yeah.
So that's really helped our organization raise so much. And I tell my board members, because I was like, numbers don't lie. Look at, when they had all first joined our organization, I said, numbers don't lie. Like, look at how much we were raising before and look how much now, and it's, tripled.
Right.
It's
Right.
crazy.
That's amazing. I love that. So besides the money, I know the first time y'all raised a lot of money, but I'm sure there was a moment in the beginning when you knew, okay, this is what we've got to do. I'm sure there was a memorable moment.
Yeah. So, for my husband, as I had mentioned, he was LLS. So
Yeah.
that was really something because before he had did his one event, he had run for Man of the Year, which I
Oh
don't know if you
wow.
know that for LLS. Like I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks where you just like an intense fundraising.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And he got runner up and he really loved it. And so he was like, you know what? I love doing this. And then when he had the first event, he was like, that's it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
For me, when I met him and I was still helping people, run marathons for different causes, and I didn't really connect with Truman Charities and really understand the concept until I'd met him, and we went to an event for So What Else, which helps does after school programs for at risk kids
Uh-huh.
in Baltimore and DC. And I was talking to the founder and he was telling me about what they are providing for these children. So they have something to do after school, but they're also learning like entrepreneurship and
Wow.
all of these things and have financial classes for them and all of this great things that I think, a lot of the school when I grew up and I was in my school, we should have had some of those classes. I
Right.
was like, these are
Right.
amazing classes to
Yes.
have and how much they were helping these kids. And I thought, my father grew up in a very under-resourced area right outside of Baltimore City, which is
Yeah.
where one of their programs is. And I thought, would his life would have changed,
Yeah.
if he would have had the opportunity to be involved in an organization like this.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if that would have happened or not, but I do think, he would have been a chance. There would have been a chance. So that's when I really connected. I was like, you know what? I'm in. This is so great. Like I can see the changes. I can see the positive changes that you're making within the community. And,
Yeah.
I'm sold. I'm on board.
That is awesome. I love it. Like I said, I am amazed when I learn about all these things that people are
Mhm.
doing, and it's so creative. And that's what I like finding is unique. I mean, people are helping people everywhere, but finding in these unique nonprofits and organizations that are doing, like my favorite one, I'm going to visit one day. There's a
Oh,
farm in Virginia. It's a 150-acre farm, and they grow food just to give away. They give away to food pantries, and they don't sell it. They don't keep it. They have thousands of volunteers. I want to go visit that farm so bad, but I just love that. It amazes me. But stuff like that is just, it blows my mind. So I love getting to learn about these things.
do
I
you know
love
where the farm is in Virginia? Because
I would have to look it up. It's called JK Community Farm is the name of the,
interesting.
yes. And the way she got started, I mean, it's unreal. It blows my mind. But that my husband said too, I want to go see that one too. I would love to
Yeah.
take a year and just go visit everybody that I've talked to and, participate in whatever they're doing. I think that would be fun. I don't
Yeah,
know
that
how that
would
would
be fun.
happen, but it would be fun. What's your favorite thing about what you're doing with this program?
Well, I think within our organization is seeing because so for instance, the immediate impact that happens when we're bringing people together to help
Yeah.
another person within the community. So for example, we are doing, and we've done an event for this organization before, and we're going to do it again for this Halloween party in October. It's
Mhm.
called For the Kids. And so For the Kids picks, it's two guys that we know in the area, and it's 100% volunteer based. Their nonprofit's 100% volunteer, and they pick a family once a year, and they choose one family to raise money for that particular family. So it's awesome to see that, we have this party and we've raised this money, and then immediately a check goes out to that family for
Right.
that amount. So then that mom and dad they don't have to worry about bills. And so they, while they're in the hospital with their child getting
Right.
treatment. And so the boy that we are raising money for, this mother, her husband passed away from a type of brain cancer, and now her son has it.
Mm.
And she's overwhelmed, understandably so. And
Yeah.
she's 20 minutes away from us. And she's having, she's like, I'm in the hospital, and I should not be thinking about how I'm going to pay my mortgage and how I'm going to
Right.
keep the lights on. And so just seeing that immediate impact that happens when you put in time and effort to get people together
Yeah.
is really, it's really gratifying. And it really kind of grounds you too, with like just being grateful for the things that you have.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you
Absolutely.
see that too, like talking to so many different people that are in nonprofits, because I say
Yeah.
that too, is that when you talk to founders of a lot of nonprofits, unfortunately, a lot of it starts from some sort of tragedy.
Yeah.
And from that tragedy, they're helping so many people.
Yeah.
But the way that it starts is hard. And so, it's interesting to listen to these stories from all different types of people, from all different types of backgrounds, and it really just kind of makes you so grateful for what you do have.
It does, and a lot of them have made me think about, I talked to somebody in Alaska, and they have this volunteer-based program where people are trained to sit with those at the end of their life that don't have family with them. I would have never even thought about that, somebody having to be there for, you know what I mean? Those kinds of
Mhm.
things, they have definitely made me think. I talked to a woman who, she created an organization to find homes for pets when women are trying to get out of domestic abuse situations. She said that one of the reasons they don't leave often is because they have a pet and they don't know what's going to happen to the animal, which is crazy to think about. But I had never thought about that. It never would have occurred to me that that would
Yeah.
be a reason that someone would stay, but it is. And so she helps find foster homes and shelters and places all over the country for women. I mean, it amazes me because I would never have thought about things like that. So I
Wow.
totally get it. I totally understand. What if somebody wants to do something like what you're doing? Maybe they can't do it on the same scale, but they think, I have a little bit of marketing in me. I have a little bit of this, and I would love to try to raise money for different things. What is some advice you could give someone?
So, we started out, on a smaller scale. And to be honest, even our larger events now, like my husband and I, our donation to the charity is that we host them. So we absorb that cost. So we
Sure.
don't do anything on these, you see these big galas and stuff like that. We don't do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. So
Right.
I get a lot of questions. So I started doing like Q&As on my podcast too, because I
Mhm.
get these questions all of the time. And I'm like, okay, because sometimes when you go to these galas and you're like, okay, well, how much is actually going to the charity,
Right.
right? After
Right.
all of these expenses, and people think that they have to do golf tournaments, which those are very, very difficult to do. So I did a
Yeah.
whole thing on that. And I was like, you can do something very simple, just like my husband did. So like you have something just at your house, and very simple, have your friend bartend, have your other friend, cook out, which is what my
Right.
husband did the first time.
Mhm.
And you can put it on a very small scale, or what we did, which a lot of people think, okay, well, I want to have an event and I'm going to have it at this place this time and this place this time. What's really great is if you consistently, which we figured out, is having it at one place,
Mhm.
because then that that establishment then gets involved within what you're doing.
Right.
And then you have this relationship that you're building. So you get a lot of, we get discounted on the space. We now get the
Sure.
space for nothing. And then we also, food discounts, all this kind of stuff. So if you're working with them, because they know that you're going to be bringing in, say, 50, 100 people into their establishment, they'll be working with you if they know you're going to be doing it once a year, or maybe twice a year.
Right.
And then most important for us is that if you're thinking of doing something like this, don't try to be the best at everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at a couple things, but I'm not good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and what you're not good at, find someone that's really good at it and bring them on board onto your team.
Sure.
So then so you're not going to feel overwhelmed, and you're not going to be pressured to be doing things that really is kind of out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about? Because I think you've answered all my questions.
Oh, well, also I'll bring up real quickly is that, so after I've been talking to, gosh, I think it was like over like 100, 100 people over, it was like over 100 episodes of the podcast at that point.
Mhm.
And I realized kind of this underlining cause, or this issue that was happening in society when it came to so many things. And that was, homeless youth and youth with substance abuse and
Right.
exploited women and just teen pregnancy and all of that. And it was the lack of father involvement within the family unit. So I wrote a book and I interviewed people from all different backgrounds, and it was really interesting. And it's Vanishing Fathers: The Ripple Effect on Tomorrow's Generation. It debuted in March, and 100% of the proceeds go to at-risk youth. So we've raised close to $80,000 so far from that book, but it's a really great book. Just so young men can realize how important that they are within society and within that family unit, which is really what I wanted to kind of have people understand while reading it. And I love stories, and I love like all different kinds of people from all different types of backgrounds. And so I made sure that I have that, and I have some really, really compelling stories in there that just kind of, and it's great because also too, those stories there's a couple women and mostly men in the book that I spoke with, and they either had, no father at all, or father was substance abuse, or one was in a cult. It was really from why, like all different backgrounds, as I mentioned. And they ended up, breaking that cycle, becoming, wonderful fathers themselves and husbands. And so it really does show that, just because you start, you were born and your dad was not involved, or you have a very complicated relationship with your father, doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great father yourself.
Absolutely. So, well, I'm going to get that book. I love that. I think and it's very accurate that makes such a difference when the father's not present. So, well, thank you for talking to me today. This was so fun.
I know, it was a great time.
I'll send you my website, but if you scroll down at the bottom of my website, I have all the people listed that I've talked to, and most of them are nonprofits. So you just scroll through there, and anybody you want to go find, you go talk to them.
Oh my
gosh. There's some great ones. I love getting to do this, getting to learn about what people are doing all over. So
I know I scrolled through, I've listened to a couple, and then you mentioning a couple, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Oh my gosh. I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. So well, thank you again for having me on.
Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day.
All right. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.